Maggie, congratulations for your documentary, Maestra.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
More of a congratulations being showcased at one of the most prestigious film festivals in the world, Tribeca. How do you feel about that?
Feels very exciting. It feels like a relief. It's a relief to be at this stage of the film's journey. It's really exciting to be back too. I was first there as a producer in 2017 of a film called Gilbert, and now back as a director of Maestra.
Most excellent. So, what spawned the idea for you to do this documentary for Maestra?
Well, it's a world that I've always been interested in. I was the kid in with my head in the orchestra pit. Whenever there was a free concert in the park, my mom would take me. Classical music was always in my household, and I have always just been fascinated by orchestras. And when I heard about this competition, it was being covered by NPR for the 2020 iteration of the competition. It's a very new competition. It's only started in 2020, and 2022 was only the second year. So it's every other year. So what you're seeing on screen is the story of 2022. So heard about it on the radio, where I get a lot of my ideas, and reached out to the competition and to the Paris Philharmonic, and the rest is history.
Wow. So they were instantaneously open for you to make a documentary, because I know, like, to do filming with competitions like this, there's like rules and hurdles and
well, on top of those rules and hurdles of any competition, you're also dealing with a major cultural institution and Parisians. So there's definitely a lot of about 9 months worth of conversation before we were actually able to get a contract together to make this happen. There was a lot of people involved in the decision making and making sure that filming wouldn't disrupt the nature of the competition as well.
Wow. So you literally have to start way ahead of time just for this documentary. So tell us, how did you find the 5 women before ahead of the competition?
So when the competition said yes, they had me write a letter to the 14. So I wrote a letter to the 14 to introduce myself and my intentions. And it was up to the 14 to write back and say whether they were interested or not. And all 14 were interested. And then it was the surprising joys of a limited palette. So you started with 14, and then you add on COVID. So some of those countries are closed to me when I'm filming in 2021. And then on top of that, you have the ever-present documentary issue of budget. So we've got an international follow documentary, which culminates in a competition on one of the biggest world stages of the Paris Philharmonic, and deciding how to allocate funds and what COVID was going to allow us to do was one of the deciding factors. Yes, of course, I did pre-interviews with everyone on Zoom and had my inclinations of who I thought would be an interesting follow. But then a lot of that wasn't left to my own devices, which can be sometimes a limited palette can be helpful sometimes.
So was a requirement of them to communicate in English for your film was utmost important? Because I've covered documentary competitions before, and usually because of the international scale, it could be in multiple languages all over the world. But yours, everybody spoke pretty good English.
Everyone spoke pretty good English, and it was up to them how they wanted to communicate to us. So the like the Olympics, the competition has two official languages, French and English. So even any sort of announcements on stage were in French and English. Because of the international element, the chosen language of the conductors amongst themselves was generally English, unless, and also many of them are multilingual, as is. Most of them travel for a living. So they are working in multiple countries. A lot of them aren't living in the country of their birth. So they all to a degree knew English. I take that back. So a couple of them didn't, but we just ended up not following those people.
So what was the original intent when you started filming? What were you hoping to show for yourself? Because obviously for a lot of documentarians, what they started with isn't what they ended up with.
Always. That's one of my favorite things about documentary filmmaking, is that, like, much like a child, you can have every intention you want, but it is a living, breathing creature, which you need to listen to. You need to listen to during production. You need to listen to during the edit, especially. And it kind of tells you what it wants and needs to be. And I feel like one of the main jobs of a director is to be open to what the story is asking to be. And I'm not so much imposing my viewpoint on it as I am listening and observing and then sort of guiding. But it's really also, it's like working with a coworker with documentary storytelling. You kind of like have to respect each other. I respect the story and I also influence the story. So your original question, please, again.
What was the original intent?
The original intent. So a competition is immediately entertaining. And for me, movies need to be entertaining first and foremost. That's always going to be the way I approach something, because it's a film, it's a movie. We eat popcorn during it, right? It's a piece of entertainment. And then, okay, this is a fascinating world. It's a competition. Competitions are immediately entertaining. It's a fascinating world no one really gets to peer into unless you're a part of it. Most people, even like myself, as someone who enjoyed classical music, I couldn't tell you what a conductor does. I could maybe guess that it's, beating time, but that's a minuscule part of it. It's about interpretation. It's about reading what's there, studying the score, and not just notes on a page, but about that composer. So I wanted people to learn about what conductors do. But I always knew that at the heart of the story was going to be who these women are. What an incredible job they have. How random, what a weird job they have. So they have a very strange job, and they are about 3, 4, 5% of the people who have this job are women. So immediately they're going to be interesting. So for me, the competition was secondary to the human stories that were going to unfold on screen. And that was always my intention, was to get to know these human beings and enjoy them within the world that they exist in.
That is absolutely true. I mean, I didn't even know, first of all, I didn't know this competition existed, but thank you for highlighting that it is fairly new. But then the feminism, I didn't know there was such a uphill battle, because it's something that most of us, being a man myself, we don't think about this kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So the feminism aspect goes back to, I'm a firm believer that you put anyone under a microscope, and in this case, a lens, and they're going to be interesting. Like, if we talk for long enough, we're going to uncover stories about each other that are going to be interesting. I'm a firm believer in that. So the feminism themes that come out of this film come out naturally. And that was a goal of mine. So there are other filmmakers out there who are going to be better suited at telling issue films.
Mm-hmm.
That's not those aren't the stories that I'm going to tell. I'm going to explore an issue as a byproduct of being entertained in a fascinating world. So yes, those stories are there. Yes, I wanted them highlighted. And yes, I want to lift these women up. But that is coming with the spoonful of sugar of the competition.
Mm-hmm.
And in doing that, I feel as though that messaging gets to seep in versus being hit on the head with it. And when messaging can seep in from the heart space, then it'll stick around longer and it'll be more effective.
And we have to commend the fact that you are a female director and 80% female crew. So that is a wonderful accomplishment, especially in the film industry today.
Yeah, I didn't want this was an opportunity that was presented to me by a man. I need to note that. This opportunity, much like many of my opportunities, were presented to me through my longtime producing partner, Neil Berkeley. He was the person who said, "Hey, do you want to produce this film with me?" And I said, "Yes." Then he's like, "Hey, I think you should direct this thing." And I said, "Okay." So it is a microcosm, this film, of what I hope society can be, and what society can be, which is men in positions of privilege giving an opportunity and then giving autonomy, right? It's all great, well and good to give an opportunity, but that real opportunity is when you also step back and you give the autonomy. So the 80% female, my point here is that I didn't want it to be an opportunity just for me. I wanted it to be an opportunity for other people. So I said 75%. We need to have at least 75% of our credits be women or female identifying people. And that was not easy to do when you have to crew up super fast in Greece, for example, where I think there are 3 female cinematographers in the country operating at the level that I needed them to operate at. 3. One was on maternity leave. One, I couldn't track down her information. And the third was Olympia, who's incredible and one of the best DPs I've ever worked with. And it was hard. It was really hard. We were running out of time. And it was suggested to me, like, look, here's a list. Here's a list of men and their contact information. Come on, let's just skip this one. No, I'm sure she's out there. And you dig, and you'll find someone. It shouldn't be that hard. But unless we set mandates and say, we need to make this happen, you're not gonna spend the time and energy to dig and dig and dig to find her. So that was a goal of this film. And we achieved 80%.
And you did it. Maggie, let me wrap it up with one last thing, because now audiences will have a chance to check this film out at Tribeca, and hopefully down the road that a lot more people will have a chance to watch your film. What is the one most important take that you hope that they walk away with after viewing your film?
Well, I'd like for people to at least be able to answer the question, what is a conductor? But I would like people to walk away feeling as though they spent the last 88 minutes of their lives watching something that was fun and discovering 5 new incredible women that they didn't know existed before. I think it's pretty much that simple.
Well, it is a lovely film, and the ending put a smile on my face despite the vigorous competition, because those women came together as friends in the end. And sometimes these competitions, you never see that. So that is a wonderful ending. So Maggie, thank you very much for carrying this conversation for your film Maestra. Everyone should check it out at Tribeca, and hopefully more film festivals and chance for a wider release, and people need to check it out. Thank you.
Thank you.